I am the Nature Hacker, and this is your world. So today I want to talk about Bitcoin. The halvening has occurred. The halvening has occurred, and this is basically the shot heard around the world. This is the beginning of the end of Bitcoin. So what happened? Well, what happened was the block reward just was halved. You used to get 25 Bitcoins per each block mine. Now you get 12 and a half Bitcoins. So this is a huge drop. So what do we get from this drop? Well, what happens is that Bitcoin, there's only a total amount of 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be created. So this is a big problem, because once we're out of the 21 million Bitcoins, miners will no longer have a reward to mine. And some people will be like, well, they'll make transaction fees. Well, I did the calculation, and I think each transaction would be around $10. Best case scenario, when the Bitcoins run out, best case scenario, if you want to keep Bitcoin around, transaction fees would have to be around $10 a transaction. So let's say you want to buy a cup of coffee with Bitcoins. Well, it'll cost you $4 plus $10 transaction fee. So that cup of coffee will cost you $14. So that's obviously not going to happen. What's going to happen is people aren't going to pay transaction fees that high. So what's going to happen is the Bitcoin will freeze. It'll just freeze to death. You know, like a lot of scientists say, which I think they're wrong, but they say the universe will die in a freezing death. Well, that's how Bitcoin is actually going to die. What's going to happen is miners just aren't going to be able to make enough money to stay in business, and they're going to shut down their mining operation. So I predict that's going to actually start happening really soon. We're going to start. It's been happening the whole time. So many people have been put out of business as Bitcoin miners, as transaction rewards have decreased and difficulty has increased. Lots and lots of miners have been forced out, and now the only people who can do it profitably are China, giant Chinese Bitcoin farms. So what's happening here is that since the reward just dropped in half, what's going to happen is necessarily many more Bitcoin miners are going to fall out of profitability. So maybe now a bunch of Chinese farms will probably have to shut down. So so that's where we're at, is basically farms shutting down, and when that happens, the hash rate is going to decrease, and and basically what that means is that transaction times are going to increase. So it's going to take a lot longer to verify transactions. So it's just going to mean that instead of taking 10 minutes to verify transaction, it'll take 30 minutes or something. So and basically you're going to have to pay more fees. That's what it's going to come down to. If you want to get your transaction done in a reasonable time frame, you're going to have to pay more in transaction fees. So that's the way this is all going to go down. Is basically what's going to happen is transaction fees are going to skyrocket. They're just going to keep going up from here on out. I think the transaction fees will probably max out at about $10. So it's just transaction fees are just gonna head on up. Right now they're very low. They're gonna just head on up, and that's just what's gonna happen. Transaction fees are just gonna keep going up until Bitcoin movement is then gonna just go down. People are just gonna stop trading Bitcoins because it costs too much. Transaction fees are too much to trade it. So that's what you'll see. First of all, we'll see the mining revenue go down, which we did. We saw mining revenue tank, just plummeted by about 3x. So as soon as the halvening happened, Bitcoin mining revenues just tanked by about 3 times. And now what's going to happen is there's going to be a little delay, and now we're starting to see the hash rate decrease. So we're going to see the hash rate continue to decrease, and then the difficulty is going to decrease to compensate. But the problem is that even if the difficulty compensates, you're still only getting the same amount of blocks per second, basically. But each block reward is half. So even the difficulty compensating is not going to help things. And then the final variable you'll see is transaction or Bitcoin movement decreasing, and then transaction fees increasing. Okay, so it goes like this. Mining revenues decrease, which leads to a hash rate decrease, which leads to a less Bitcoin changing hands, which leads to higher transaction fees. So that's how this all plays out, and this is going to be a cycle that keeps getting bigger, greater and greater as more and more halvenings occur, and as time goes on, as we get closer to the 21 million bitcoins. I mean, we're almost there. We're at like 18 million bitcoins, so they're almost out. So as soon as they hit 21 million bitcoins in like around 2020, Bitcoin will be frozen. It'll just be dead in the water. So you're seeing the beginnings of the fall right now. I'll put links in the description to charts that you can look at, and I'll tell you which charts to look at and what order they will be affected by this happening. Thanks for watching. I am the Nature Hacker. Do work.